There we go. Recording's working now. So, um, as I said, we have several agenda items, so we'll get started right away. First tonight, Wayne's going to help us become familiar with the new document that came out on Offside. And so, Wayne, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Let me get stuff kind of set up here. I've got two little things. I've got a brief PowerPoint and also a couple video clips on this. So we'll start out with my my PowerPoint, and
It is there, Wayne.
okay, I'm going to try to maximize it so you get a little bit better.
Yep, it's maximized.
Okay. And let me move something around here. Okay, good evening, everyone. In the announcement for this particular session, Richard actually put a link to this circular. It came out around the end of July, 1st of August, regarding Offside. And really, it's not, the circular is not changing the law in anything, but it's intended to give some additional considerations. So that's what it is the guidelines to distinguish between deliberate play and the deflection. And what I'm presenting, I don't know, many of you probably get the Referee magazine. And in this month's edition, the October edition, what is going to be presented or covered by me tonight is also in written form, starting on page 48, and it goes to 48 and 49. So what is an offside offense? I'm going to pick on one of our instructors that is on the line. And so can you give me, I'm going to ask Rich Turner to give me a 30-second definition of what is an offside offense as opposed to being in an offside position. So offside offense.
Being in an offside position, being involved in play or affecting play and having received the ball directly from a teammate or from a teammate.
Perfect, perfect. So the circular basically articulated what Richard said. Position is in an offside position at the moment the ball is played or touched by a teammate, and they only become penalized if they're involved in active play. And the two bullet points there are by gaining an advantage by, or in that. So those are the two considerations for penalizing for an offside offense. And then FIFA kind of monkeyed things up or muddied things up a little bit. And a few years ago, they added another sentence. And it says a player is an offside position receiving an opponent who deliberately. And so you got into this thing about is a defender play the ball or to deflect the ball? And there's been several wrong interpretations of that. And so the purpose of this circular and the article is, which is based on this circular, is to clarify that a little bit. So I'm going to pull an excerpt from the circular for what is the difference between a deliberate play and a deflection. And Cody, you want to read that for everyone?
Yeah, deliberate play is when a player has control of the ball with the possibility of passing the ball to a teammate or gaining possession of the ball or clearing the ball. Example, by kicking or heading it. If the pass attempt to gain possession or clearance by the player in control of the ball is inaccurate or unsuccessful, this does not negate the fact that the player deliberately played the ball.
Okay, so the key words here are the player has control of the ball. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay. So here is some indicators that FIFA has given us in this circular about what is a player in control of the ball. So I can't see too many out there, but someone want to read this one? Oh. Okay, hi, Richard. Different Richard, okay. Go ahead. Richard Kruger. Can you read that for us, please?
I wonder if he lost audio, Wayne.
Oh, okay. Well, how about Richard Meeks?
The following criteria should be used as appropriate as indicators that a play was in control of the ball and as a result deliberately played the ball. The ball traveled from distance and the player had a clear view of it. The ball was not moving quickly. The direction of the ball was not unexpected. The player had time to coordinate their body movement, i.e. it was not a case of instinctive stretching or jumping or a movement that achieved limited contact or control. A ball moving on the ground is easier to play than a ball in the air.
Okay, so in this circular, this is the exact screenshot of the verbiage in the circular. And this is what they're saying are indicators or guidelines or things that we may want to look for to determine if there was a deliberate play. Now, obviously, not a deliberate play or deflection or something else would be the exact opposite of that. They don't give us that. So I took a little liberty of creating my own by wordsmithing what they have in here. And so the ball was close. There was a close distance, and they may not have had a clear view of it. Ball was moving quickly as opposed to not moving quickly. The ball comes at an angle that was unexpected. Okay. The player didn't have time to coordinate their body movement, so there was no deliberate play. And sometimes they just, it was just an instinctive reaction, let's say, of a defender sticking their foot out if a ball was going through. So that is what FIFA is saying in this particular circular, and that's what that article also thinks. So I've got a couple of videos. This circular, by the way, also has a link to FIFA videos, which is one of the first times that I've seen them do that, and they're pretty good. So I'm going to do a new share here.
Hey, Wayne,
yeah.
Rich Turner asked the question of, does this differ from videos from MNSRC of several years ago?
Yes. These are brand new. So let me pull up the videos, and let me see if I can make technology work. Okay, this first one is going to be not a deliberate play, and this is going to be an unexpected ball. Setting it up a little bit, red is going to be the attacking team, white is defending, and they're going toward the goal to the right here. Okay. I'm going to mute the sound here. So I've also set the speed up at 50%, so hopefully the video quality will come through okay for you guys. It may take a little longer to play it, but let's see what happens. FIFA says about that particular video clip. That because the ball came and it was not, it was kind of an instinct. It kind of hit him on his thigh. He was actually kind of backing up a little bit. That's why they're saying this was offsides. Now, in other words, there was a deflection off a defender. The player that was the attacker received it in an offside, was already in an offside position. So that's what they're saying there. Any questions on that one? Okay, and I got one more that's going to go the other way. And I'll play this one also at half speed. And this is going to be a deliberate play. Okay, can everybody see that the blue defender stuck his leg out and actually kicked the ball, and the ball changes direction? So FIFA says when this is not offside. This is just a poorly played ball by the defender, and defender number 2 in blue on this one. Okay.
Wayne, can I ask a question about that play right now?
Yeah, sure, KD.
Okay, so if not the defender that made the deliberate play, but if we go back to the initiation of the pass, the defender that's closest to that passer, who was about 1 at most 2 yards away, it appears that he also attempted to stick his leg out in a deliberate manner and did not make contact. Had he made contact and the ball went backwards to that yellow player in an offside position, would that ruling still be no offsides?
Yes, because again, it was considered a deliberate play.
And so proximity there was one of the criterias, right? From
Yeah,
distance
but
versus close.
but it's got to be pretty much all of them. You know, the proximity, speed of the ball, the distance, unanticipated, unexpected. So kind of process. You got to kind of process all of that together. Okay.
Okay, so if he instinctively stuck his leg out to defend, block that ball, but
if it's instinctively, then that's more of a deflection. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still not getting clarity on that. Like, if I'm a defender, my instinct is to stick my leg out to defend the ball. I have no idea where that's going. I'm just sticking my leg out, right?
Correct.
And if it happens to go backwards, I didn't have control of that ball. To me, that's a deflection, not a. I mean, it's both a deflection and a deliberate play. I guess there's a paradox there.
Yeah, there probably is. It's not totally clear, but again, I'm going to go back. Let's see here. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. And again, use these words. Look at the circular, okay, and try to go through all of this, process this, and again, it's your opinion if what you think happened, but they're giving you some criteria here of what they think is appropriate for a player having the ball in control. Okay.
Right. So in my hypothetical, then the ball did not travel from distance because I'm just 1 yard away. The ball was moving quickly, right? And the direction of the ball was not. We had no idea where it was going.
If an assessor asks you that, and that is your explanation in your opinion, then you're in good shape. Okay.
Yeah, there's just a lot of I get you. There's just a lot of there's going to be different interpretations among different referees on that. There's a lot of ambiguity there.
Yeah,
right?
well, but before this, there was nothing. It was kind of like, what do you think, was the skill of the players? You got to do a lot of things there. Okay, KD?
Hey, just to build on this conversation, because I was definitely struggling with how that second example was not offside. But I think the fourth bullet is where that example really fits in. in that that defender had time to coordinate their body movement by sticking their foot in front of the goal, the attacking player, and to be able to kick it away from the attacking player from being able to play it.
Yeah, Richard, I get that the defender that actually made contact. I can see why that was not considered an offside penalty. Where I struggle if the first defender, who was just 1 yard away, makes the same movement, the same play by sticking his leg out. And that also goes back.
But you don't have the distance is what
You don't have the distance on that one.
Right. I don't have the distance. I don't have the ball.
And you may
that was
not have a
moving
clear
quickly.
view.
Right.
And the ball is moving quickly.
Okay. There's just gonna be a lot of judgments on these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Wayne, you had a good point. This gave this at least starts to give us some criteria to utilize to differentiate between deliberate and not deliberate, where before it was all of us talking and coming up with our own definitions.
Right. And our own experience base, delivering, the type of games that we may. So my closing thing is just my contact information. So Richard, I'm going to stop sharing and it's turn it back over to you. So we can talk more offline if anybody has any particular questions, but I would encourage you to read the circular. There's like 14 videos in the embedded in that circular. So go through that and also read I think Referee Magazine did a good job of also explaining it. So it's your show, Richard.
Cool. Thank you, Wayne. So the other items here on the agenda just are items that have come up in our first month of the fall league that I thought I would use as a bulleted list to talk about. Usually it used to be we just had to be worried about snow on the ground, and we continue to have to deal with air quality now. I know that a couple weekends ago we played half of Saturday, and then the afternoon games got canceled, and then WPL decided not to have games on Sunday, and Washington Youth Soccer really left it up to each of the clubs to decide. So I don't know if people have any questions, comments about inclement weather and issues that you had that you maybe want advice on. But I'm happy to open it up for any questions, comments there.
I have a question. This is Vasilios. So my question is whether we have a bad weather or lightning, I'm sorry, or heavy rain, we decide when we take some measurements and then we said, okay, so the field, it's okay to play or it's not safe to play. Is any measurements for us as a referees if we go into the field to decide that, okay, so I mean, we came over, but the environment, it's not safe for us or the players to play? Is something that we can use as a tool and say that, okay, so from this quality to this quality, we can play, from this quality, we're not, and that's it.
So air quality, it seems to be the 150, and I'm not even sure what that measurement is, but I know I've downloaded an app this month that's air quality, and it tells me whether it's good, dangerous, bad, and gives me a reading. And Washington Youth Soccer and WPL seem to be using the 150 as kind of the point, in that if anything's above 150, then the game shouldn't be played. If it's below 150, then it should be. In regards to rain, I think pretty much we play in rain, no matter how heavy it may be. And if we're missing a corner of the field because it's underwater, I still seen games be played, and we just have corner kicks on one corner of that end of the field. Snow has kind of been that in order for us to play soccer, we got to be able to see the lines. And if we can see the lines of the field, then we most likely can play the soccer game. Now, sometimes the ice will get too bad where we feel like even with cleats, because of the ice and people are sliding around, then that wouldn't be safe. But if you've got soft snow or the ice snow that is crunchy, then you're probably going to be able to play the game. Does that help, Vasilius?
That helps. Yeah. Basically my question it was if the air quality come to our responsibilities or we just leave it to the club. And I know for me personal as a referee and because my son plays soccer too, I would rather to have the club decide what they're gonna do with the air quality instead of me, because the other day we travel all the way to Pasco. We book a hotel, we stay there, and the next day we didn't play because the air quality, the club said we can't play because of the air quality. So we travel for nothing. So it's gonna be better for the club to take the responsibilities instead of one individual and everybody blame that guy.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think, with the air quality, I think definitely, I think the leagues and the clubs kind of stepped up. I know Starfire, I think they closed down Starfire on that Saturday at like around 2:00 because they said the air quality is too bad. We're closing the facility. I think that if you get in a situation as a referee and you're not sure which way to go, reach out to your assigner, because the assigners usually are in contact with either the league or the clubs. Any other questions about inclement weather?
I sent you a link, Richard.
Perfect. Yeah, I think Jeff got on chat, he put a link in. I also know on if you go to let's see here, if you go to the NSO, whoops, that was the wrong button. If you go to the NSO website, under information, we also have the air quality app that you can look at, but I think it's set only to Renton, and I know many of us are officiating games in other places. Okay, next then on the agenda was ECNL, Elite Academy, and E64 rules. So I know those that have done ECNL games in the past, I did send out a communication on where to find the league rules and some of their nuances to make sure we were following. That last page I just clicked on, here's the Elite Academy league rules that are on the NSO website underneath information and then documents. And ECNL is played by Pac Northwest and Washington Premier. The Elite Academy is MRFC has have teams that play in that league. And then E64 is a new league that Valor has become part of, and I believe they will have games in that. And once we have more information on the rules, I'll have that posted to the website. But I think it's really important that as you officiate these leagues, that you go and look at the files before you actually do the game. So that way you're able to know what the rule nuances are. Any questions about any of the league rules. Okay, not seeing anything in the chat, so I'm going to keep us moving along. High school discrimination procedure. So those of you who are officiating high school games, there's been some issues around discriminatory harassing behavior. Sometimes I think on the field and sometimes from the spectators. I will tell you that in the Ryan and I attend a weekly WOA assigner meeting, and I don't know to date that there's been any issues with this in regards to soccer. But I know some of the other sports are having issues around this. So if you as an official are approached by a coach or a player and saying that there was harassing discriminatory behavior, this is the process we need to follow and stop the game. Let the captains and the coaches know what has been reported to you, that it won't be tolerated. You need to make sure that you find the on-site management and let them know what has happened, especially if it is in regards to spectators. Because really that event management's responsible for the behavior of spectators. As we know, usually our event management is the head coach as well, but it's their responsibility as the event management to take care of it. And then if it happens again, you should then go through the same process of letting everybody know what happened. It won't be tolerated. And that if it happens again, there's a high likelihood that you'll be terminating the contest and letting them all sort it out the next day with WIAA. And then if it does happen a third time, if necessary, then we should be ending the contest. I know that we did have someone report that they felt that spectators in their cheering and or I would call maybe taunting the opposing team. They felt like this should have been handled in this way. We did follow up with WOA, and when we have cheering and or kind of the taunting, that's not really fitting into this discriminatory harassing behavior. So it was kind of one clarity we got. Is there anybody that has any questions in regards to this policy? Okay. Hopefully there won't be any issues. And if it does happen, make sure that you're reaching out to Ryan or I after the game to let us know, to give us a heads up. Just wanted to let you know on the website, I know several people had it set up so if someone turned back a game, they would get an email notification so they could go and jump on the game. We have turned this off. Those emails were causing so many that action of a turn back was causing so many emails to go out that we kept ending up on internet service providers blacklist. So to help deal with that, we've turned that off so that our other communications will hopefully be able to get through. The other piece I just want to remind people is that we give people the ability to turn back a game 7 days prior to that match, and they're no longer responsible for that match. If you turn it back in less than 7 days, you'll see that a no appears next to your name, which is saying that maybe you found a better game you want to go get on, and so you're going to turn back the one you have so you can pick up the other one. You're still responsible for that game, as I'm sure some of you have learned, because you can't quite yet self-assign to that better game that you wanted. But once somebody else goes and picks it up, it relieves you of it, and then you can go pick up that better game. If you truly are turning back a game on the 6th day before because you got hurt over the weekend, you need to be reaching out to the assigner and letting them know that you are hurt and aren't able to, and are concerned about being able to do that game that following weekend, so that they can remove you of that responsibility. Otherwise, assigners are presuming that you will be picking and taking care of that game if no one else picks it up. Anybody have any questions, comments about turnbacks?
Yeah, Richard, I do. This is KD.
Yep.
Is it possible for you to set it up so that if you're one of the ARs and your center turns back the match, that you can pick up that center and then open up your AR? Because right now you can't do that.
Unfortunately, the technology can't do that, but what I would encourage you to do is reach out to the assigner of that match and say, hey, I'm happy to do that center for you if you want to put me on it.
Yeah, sometimes the assigners don't respond quickly enough before. Yeah, it gets picked
I know.
up. Yeah.
I know. Unfortunately, I know I'm guilty of not being able to respond quick enough to get people moved to the center. But you know, please, if that interests you, let us know, because we will make those moves.
Thank you.
Hey, Richard, a quick question.
Yeah.
For the turnbacks, what's the responsibility for if a club cancels, which would be the equivalent of turning back within 7 days? Or
If a club cancels, then you wouldn't if a club cancels, then you're not responsible for covering it. I'm not sure if I'm following, Adrian.
it happened at one time that the club canceled like 4 days, and I made plans, and I'm trying to understand if we are keeping the same accountability to the clubs as we are keeping to the referees.
So clubs have the ability to cancel games up to 24 hours prior to the match. So I guess in the way you asked the question, no, the clubs don't have the same, they have to cancel games within 7 days in advance. Is that the question you're asking?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the answer.
Yeah. You know, I know that I tell my clubs that when they cancel games less than 7 days in advance, and they do that more often than the other clubs, referees will stop taking their games first because they're going to be gun shy on it being canceled on them. So I know that I work with the clubs and trying to make sure they're canceling games as far out and in advance. But sometimes it's just out of their control of not being able to do that. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. We got 20 minutes and I've got a few more topics here. Next is handling spectator behavior. And I want to just make sure unfortunately we had several events over the last weekend that kind of dealt with some referee abuse and or spectator behavior, and just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I also want to build on, I know Suhi sent out an email to several referees within NSO about spectator behavior and how RCL is actually suspending parents if their behavior is unacceptable. And I just want to make sure we're all continuing to follow the processes that are outlined in how to deal with spectator behavior. And so this is out of the Washington Youth Soccer RCL guidelines. This is the latest that I could find. But you're gonna, if you get to the bolded part at the end, it says it shall be the responsibility of each team to maintain proper spectator conduct. Each coach, manager, and team, club, or league official shall be held primarily accountable for the conduct of the spectators for or from their respective teams. At no time shall foul or abusive language be permitted at any field. So again, this gets back and reinforces our approach to doing this, which is to warn and then to provide a caution to the coach. And if the spectators still don't correct the problem, we then issue the send-off. The WPL sideline league rules also take the same approach in regards to that coaches are responsible for the behavior of their parents and their sideline. So again, we would follow the same procedure of warning the coach, and then cautioning the coach, and then sending the coach off. I do want to say that I am hearing about more cautions being issued to coaches when the behavior is inappropriate from the technical area and the spectators, and I'm not hearing of send-offs needing to be made on a regular basis. So I think it is somewhat helping to solve the problem that we're having. So at this time, I'll just open it up, and if people have questions, comments, I think it would be great to converse a little bit.
Yeah, so this is Ivan. So I just started refereeing this weekend. I have a question regarding the parents' behavior, though, because we are giving responsibility to the coaches. But what happens if the coach cannot handle the parents, or and we send off the coach, but the situation already probably escalated to a point where it's unsafe to keep playing, right? We suspended the game.
Yeah, so Ivan, if we've sent off the coach and there's not another coach or manager in order to be able to coach the team, then we would have to end the game because there's no longer a coach. If we send off the coach and the assistant coach is there and the behavior continues, I don't think much more after a warning to the assistant coach that it's occurring, where we may decide that we just need to end the game because it's not a what I heard from what you said, you don't feel that it's safe anymore for the officials.
Correct. Yeah, that was the question. Thank you.
Question: does the assistant coach or manager have to be on the bench at the beginning of the game to be considered, let's say, a substitute of that? It can be on the roster, definitely needs to be on the roster, but do they need to be on the bench as well? So basically,
No.
they would, let's say, they attend maybe in the somewhere in the side or if something happens, they can step up. Okay, just making
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the referee has authority to remove the parent for the stand or a spectator?
No, referees
Okay.
do not have the authority to remove spectators from the stands.
Not in Washington, right?
Pardon?
Not in Washington. In Oregon, they do. They
Okay.
stop the game and they remove all the parents out of the field. They
Yeah.
have no parents around.
Yeah. In Washington, we don't have that authority.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
But
Yeah.
going back to that scenario where if the parents, since we don't have the authority to send them off to the parents or parent, and if the parents' behavior, we send off. Well, I think that it goes to the point where if we send off the coach and the assistant coach, then the game is suspended, right? Okay, yeah, that answers my question. Yep, sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't know. I haven't, again, I get back to, I think this is, I think this is working because I think I'm hearing of less issues, and that most of the time I'm seeing when I'm seeing bad spectator behavior or bad coaching behavior and the caution gets issued, the bad behavior seems to get corrected. I don't know if people are experiencing something different, but that's what I've been observing so far.
Usually from what I saw, if the coach goes there to the spectators, the spectators start to actually calm down. So I haven't seen yet a game where I need to send off a coach. And to be honest, the way I say it in Washington is better. And I won't say it, we don't have the authority. It's more the responsibility is taken away from us, so we don't seem like the referee sent me off and being again bad guys, as we all already are in their eyes because we officiate the games and their kids may lose, and it's not falling on us, and it's falling on the coach. So from that perspective, for me, it's even better because again, we don't want to be the bad guys for another thing.
And with the youth clubs, all those parents sign and the players sign a code, a parent and or player code of conduct, which tells them on how they're supposed to behave. And the behavior where we're having to talk to the coach about is not in line with their codes of conduct. And so all we're trying to do is help enforce the codes of conduct that the leagues and the clubs have put into place. And we're utilizing the coaches to be able to help enforce the correct behavior. Okay, anything more on this topic?
This is Vasilios. I would like to add something as a referee with my experience in this situation, how sometimes escalate the spectators, the parents, and the coach. And sometimes we want to take the action, but really we can't, because it was like a situation that was our fault, that we didn't take the right measurements in a foul or in a situation between the players and escalate the behavior of the coach because we didn't take the right action on the field. So sometimes these two things relate to each other. If I make a mistake on the field and didn't admit it, I don't try to correct the things, or if I don't step up to solve the problem over there, maybe will escalate, coach would be angry and it will be angry for the rest of the game. So we have to check our behavior sometimes. And sometimes I was arrogant to the coach. The coach tried to talk to me and I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I was like, we have to work each other. We have, as a referees, I think we have to have a right behavior to them too.
Yep, I think that's very nicely said, Vasilius. I think that sometimes as referees, we are going to make mistakes on the pitch. And I think both spectators and coaches and players are usually acceptable to a few mistakes. Players make lots of mistakes during a game. And if we handle it professionally, most often we can de-escalate the situation. Sometimes when we're not open to listening and just being an ear to let them vent, we then can escalate the situation. So I think sometimes we got to be careful and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Okay, I want to talk about games starting late. So if you're officiating a U16 game and you start at 15 minutes late, how long are the half and or halves? So your options here, and I apologize, I couldn't get the polling to work tonight on Zoom. So your options here is 1, the first half is 25 minutes and the second half is 40 minutes. 2 is the first half is 38 minutes and the second half is 38 minutes. 3, the game is forfeited because we are past the 10-minute waiting period. Or 4, we play the full 2 40-minute halves. So what's the answer here? Anybody want to venture?
I'm going to number 2.
You're going to go with number 2?
Yep.
Okay. I think number 2 is a reasonable solution. Does anybody have any of the other answers that they think could be right?
I'd go with number 4. If there's no match afterwards, starting late doesn't impact anyone else, then if both teams agree, then you could just play the full duration.
And Jeremy, I think you're absolutely right on that one as well. And I think the key point to number 4 is that there's not another game following your game. And so if you're playing a 9 o'clock game at Starfire, your answer is going to be number 2, because that there's probably another 4 or 5 games on your field that day. If you're playing at 6:30 on Starfire 2, and you're the last game of the night, then you could go with number 4 and do 2 40-minute halves. Anybody have questions about how to manage the starting of games when they start late?
I gotta say that if you have a 6:30 game at Starfire, you're already late. So it doesn't matter. You're gonna be late anyway.
Can I say something about this, about number 1?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I will talk to coach about the time lost. Okay, and then we can make an agreement. So for the home game and the home team and the away team, and then I will explain that this is the situation and the circumstances about 15 minutes or 25 minutes last or 10 minutes last. And they say, okay, let's play 25 and then we can play 40. Because I will tell them I have another game coming up. I don't want to be behind. So I would say
Ruben,
number 1, it
equal
depends on
halves.
referees also.
So unfortunately, Ruben, on number 1, under the FIFA laws of the game, you must have equal halves.
Okay.
So that's where number 1 doesn't work.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So we go for number 2 then.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep. And you're absolutely right, Ruben. I liked your comment about communicating it to the coaches in that we are starting 15 minutes late. In order for us to keep this field on time and me to get to my next game, we are now reducing this to 2 38-minute halves. Other questions, comments about game time? Okay. There's our upcoming tournaments. I always like to make sure everybody has these on their calendar. And then lastly, what else is out there that anybody wanted to talk about?
Richard, I want to add one thing to the starting late notes. Just for the referees, like whatever you do end up doing, like, hey, we're going to play 2 38s, or hey, we're starting the game late and there's enough time, so we're going to play the whole game. Please just make a note of it on the match report. And that, and make sure you're communicating it through the coaches based on what you guys all agree to do. Because that's stuff that could come up if there's protests or I didn't like how this worked out for me, then having those notes and those details on the match report or even in the notes of your game report online will allow us to pass that on to the league or whoever asks those questions. Did you get that?
Yep, we got it.
Yep. Okay.
Richard, can I ask a question?
Yep.
I'm curious how strict referees are in enforcing the only one coaching or one coach at a time rule. I admit, especially at the younger ages, that there have been times where I just let the coaches, there have been 2 coaches and they're both yelling instructions. And I've let it go. It hasn't affected the game, but I know it's against the rules, and I'm just curious if I'm in the wrong for letting it go.
Anybody out there strict in only allowing one coach at a time to provide instruction?
KD, this is Matt Trilla. I just want to say that, I mean, that's funny because I had that exact thought this weekend doing a game, and you see it a lot in the lower levels, at least, where you'll have one coach on the attacking side, one coach on the defensive side, and you've got 2 coaches running up 50 yards, you know, up and back. Not quite that far, but anyhow, I was wondering too, how strict do other referees enforce this one coach at a time thing? I do not, certainly not at the lower levels. You know, I think it's instructional for them, and just let them do that as long as they're not being too abusive. But it's a great question, KD, and I would like to hear other people's input on that.
No, I'm
Anybody?
with you, Matt. Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. At the young, like the U9, 10, 11, even up to 12 is where you see it more often. You don't see it so much at the higher levels, but I've let it go unless like if one is definitely passed, you know, one time the coach put it, you can tell he put one of his other coaches on the other side of the 50-yard line. And that's when I told him he cannot be coaching from that end. But if they're just in their technical area and there's 2 coaches giving instructions at the young level, I've always let it slide.
So
That's
KD,
my,
I think you just hit perfectly on it. In you had a coach go to the other side of the halfway line, which is where you drew the line to say, hey, sorry, you got to be in your own technical area. I think that I only enforce it when the coach's behavior has become a problem. And then I remind him that only one of them can do and provide instruction at a time. So I use it more as a tool to help maintain the technical area if the technical area needs to be maintained. Does that help?
But if the teams are on opposite sides, I guess is what I was saying. If the teams are on opposite sides and you have, again, one coach from the halfway line to the 18 doing the attacking side and another coach from the halfway line to the 18 on the defensive side, and the teams are on opposite sides. As you said, Richard, I don't really have an objection to it as long as they're just giving instruction to their own players and they're not abusive to the referee. I do not enforce that rule of only one coach giving instruction at a time. So it depends on the layout of the field, what the teams are doing. So
yeah, no, I think that's a completely reasonable approach to that, Matt.
Richard, there's a question in the chat that says, what about the older groups, and what is considered an age limit?
Yeah, so I think this is oh, there we go. Adam said it nicely than what I think I would have came up with about picking your battles. No need to choose battling with number of coaches unless they're arguing with each other or with the referee crew. There's another one that Richard's saying is, you know, enforce it like the 6-second rule, where I think most goalkeepers take anywhere from probably 8 to 10 seconds to punt the ball. Most of us don't do anything about that until the other team starts to complain. So sometimes there's some of these rules that are kind of in the gray area of that. It's not worth arguing with a U14 coach about how many people can give instruction. Or even a U17 coach, depending upon if it's rec and or RCL. They all kind of seem to figure it out as they become higher level teams and older teams. But when that type of behavior is interfering with the enjoyment of the game and or causing problems, then that's when we probably should use those as tools to be able to continue the enjoyment of the game and or stop the abuse. Wayne, does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. The only thing I may add is you can sometimes use that rule to your advantage. If it becomes problematic, just remind the coaches that only one coach could be up in the area. And so it's a reminder. And so they all know that because that's, again, part of their league rules. So.
It's just like probably a lot of us don't get on every coach who gets down past the penalty area. But when we have a coach that's down past the penalty area yelling at us about a call we didn't make, we may remind them that they need to be yelling at us from their technical area and not in the penalty area.
Yeah, Richard, there's a question in the chat. What rule is this? This is not an IFAB rule. Is this a Washington youth soccer rule, or what rule is it that limits the number of coaches that can coach at a time?
Isn't it in IFAB, Wayne, that only one coach at a time can
yes,
provide?
it is. It is an IFAB that only one coach can be up at a time, giving technical information to their team. But most of the leagues do limit the number of coaches that can be put on the bench at any one time, and there's and their league rules generally say they follow FIFA except where modified for youth.
And to follow up on that, managers are allowed on the bench, because I asked one manager to leave that side and go to the spectator because there was already 4 adults. There was like 3 coaches and a therapist or whatever to check concussions or something. And I just thought there was just too many adults there. And he said he, as a manager who's on the roster, should have been allowed. But managers are allowed on the bench, right?
They are.
Yeah.
If they've got 6 people on their roster as coaches and managers, and they want to put 6 people on that bench, as long as they're not causing you problems, then it's not worth having that conversation.
All right. The other thing, what I was going to say, Richard, though, is like you said earlier, know the league rules, because like ECNL will state, no more than X number of coaches. EA may state no more than three coaches. And if you have more than the number that you're supposed to have there, based on that league rule, and they're causing trouble, then just refer to the rule and remove them. So, because the coaches will stay before the manager does.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, it's 8:05, and as you all know, I like to keep this to around 60 minutes. I had a moment of silence there, and so I think we'll call it a night. Wayne, I appreciate you doing the offside presentation at the beginning. I know that's an area that I've had lots of conversations with a lot of referees, and now I have a good resource to point them to in order to maybe get better clarification for them. Any of you, if you have any other questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out to me and or your assigner. I appreciate what you're all doing to get games covered. Please pace yourself. We have another 2 months of fall league and a lot of games. And so we need you all healthy to get across the finish line in the end of November. And with that, I'll wish you all a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
See you, Kaylee.
Was that Dad?
Yeah, that was my dad. I am back in the desert land, so.
She's the farthest away from everybody.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Richard.
Yep, we'll see y'all later.